Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her monitor in the darkened control room of the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, her third cup of coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. The anomaly had appeared again, exactly as it had for the past 3 nights, a pattern in the quantum noise that shouldn't exist, yet persistently pulsed through their most sensitive instruments with mathematical precision. "You're still here." Dr. James Rodriguez's voice carried from the doorway. "Your shift ended 4 hours ago." Sarah didn't look away from her screen. "It's back, James. And this time, I've isolated the frequency pattern. It's not random noise. It's encrypted." James sighed, the sound of a man who'd had this conversation too many times. "Sarah, we've been over this. The quantum fluctuations in that sector are well documented. It's probably just interference from..." "From what?" Sarah spun in her chair, her dark eyes intense. "Name one thing we know of that could create a repeating pattern in quantum noise. One thing." The silence stretched between them, broken only by the soft hum of cooling fans and the steady ping of incoming data. "Exactly," Sarah continued, turning back to her screen. "Because nothing we know of can do this. Nothing human, anyway." James pulled up a chair, his skepticism warring with curiosity. "Even if, and that's a big if, this is artificial, the major research institutions would need years to analyze, which is why I'm not going to them." Sarah pulled up a new window. "I've been running a different kind of analysis." James leaned forward, then blinked in surprise. "Is that Twitter and Reddit, Discord, and about 30 other platforms?" Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard. "I've been posting the raw data patterns online for the past week. There's a whole community of amateur cryptographers, mathematicians, and physics enthusiasts out there who love this kind of challenge. You're crowdsourcing the analysis of potentially alien signals." James's voice rose in disbelief. "Do you have any idea how many protocols that violates?" 47. Sarah didn't miss a beat. "I counted. But look at what they found." The screen filled with cascading data streams, overlaid with annotations and correlations. Patterns emerged from the chaos, mathematical relationships that couldn't be coincidence. "This part here." Sarah pointed to a particularly dense cluster of data. A 16-year-old in Mumbai recognized it as a variation of prime number sequences. "And this." She highlighted another section. "A physics professor in Berlin identified it as a potential quantum encryption key. Thousands of people are working on this, James. Not because they're paid to, but because they're curious. Because they want to know." James rubbed his temples. "The administration will shut this down the moment they find out." "They already have." Sarah's grin was fierce. "Tried to, anyway. But here's the beautiful thing about the internet. Once information is out there, you can't put it back in the box. There are mirrors of my data on servers across the globe. People are writing papers, sharing theories, building on each other's work. It's become something bigger than me, bigger than this observatory." Her computer chimed, drawing both their attention. A new message popped up, this one from a quantum computing group in South Korea. "They did it," Sarah whispered, her voice full of wonder. "They cracked the first layer of encryption." Her hand shook as she opened the attached files. "James, it's a message, a real message." The decoded data streamed across her screen, complex but undeniably structured. Not random noise, not natural phenomena, but deliberate communication. "My God," James breathed, skepticism finally crumbling. "What does it say?" Sarah's eyes raced over the preliminary translation. It's a distress call. An automated beacon, but incredibly sophisticated. The quantum encryption isn't just for security. It's part of the message itself. Whoever built this, they weren't just hoping someone would hear them. They were testing if we could understand them. And instead of the world's top research institutions, it was decoded by... James gestured at the screen full of social media handles and usernames. "By humanity," Sarah completed. "Not by our best and brightest working in isolation, but by thousands of minds working together, sharing ideas, building on each other's insights. She turned to face him, her expression serious. "This isn't just first contact, James. This is a test, and we just passed it in the most human way possible." Her computer chimed again, more messages pouring in as the decryption spread across the global network she created. The signal that wasn't meant for humans had found them anyway, and humanity had answered not with official protocols or institutional authority, but with curiosity, collaboration, and the unstoppable drive to solve a puzzle placed before them. As Sarah began composing a message to her impromptu global research team, she couldn't help but smile. The beings who had left this beacon, whoever they were, had probably expected it to be found by a single advanced civilization. Instead, they got humanity. Messy, chaotic, collaborative humanity, with all its brilliant imperfection. The next chime came from a different source, her official work email. The subject line read, "URGNT. Meeting with Observatory Board. Tomorrow 900. They're going to try to shut you down again," James warned. Sarah nodded, already drafting her response. "Probably. But they don't understand what's happening here. This isn't just about the signal anymore. It's about us, all of us, proving that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our institutions. It's our ability to come together, to share ideas, to build on each other's work." She hit send on her reply, then turned to the larger task of coordinating the global effort to understand the alien message. Whatever consequences tomorrow brought, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had been given its first test by the cosmos, and they had passed it in their own unique way. The signal wasn't meant for humans, but they had answered it anyway. And in doing so, they had demonstrated something remarkable, not just to the unknown beings who had left the beacon, but to themselves. In the vast cosmic ocean, humanity's greatest strength might not be its advanced technology or formal institutions, but its chaotic, beautiful, unstoppable drive to connect, to share, to understand. The next layer of encryption awaited, and with it, perhaps, the next step in humanity's journey to the stars. Sarah took a sip of her cold coffee and smiled. They were ready. The United Nations Security Council chamber hummed with tension as Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled representatives. Behind her, a holographic display showed the now famous signal pattern that had captivated the world's attention for the past month. "Let me be clear," she said, her voice steady despite the pressure. "This isn't just a distress signal. It's an invitation. The beings who left this beacon wanted to ensure only civilizations capable of understanding quantum mechanics at a fundamental level could respond. And you discovered this through social media." The French representative's tone carried equal parts disbelief and disdain. "We decoded it through global collaboration," Sarah corrected. "The same way we've made most of our greatest discoveries throughout history, by sharing information, building on each other's insights, and by violating every security protocol we have," interrupted General Hammond of the United States Space Force. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Every amateur with a laptop is now trying to communicate with potential alien civilizations." Sarah loaded her next slide. "Actually, that's exactly what we need right now." The hologram shifted to show a complex network of interconnected nodes. "This is a real-time map of everyone currently working on the signal. Over 50,000 people, from quantum physicists to high school students, all contributing their unique perspectives. And what exactly have these enthusiasts discovered?" The Chinese representative leaned forward, interest overcoming skepticism. "The beacon isn't just broadcasting distress," Sarah explained. "It's providing coordinates. Coordinates to something that's been waiting for 50,000 years to be found. But here's the crucial part. We have less than 6 months to reach it before the quantum signature degrades completely." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. 6 months. Impossible. No existing spacecraft could. Actually, a new voice cut through the chaos. Dr. Raj Patel, head of India's Space Research Organization, stood up from his observer's seat. We might have a way. He nodded to Sarah. Dr. Chen's global network didn't just decode the signal. They've been working on something else. Sarah quickly pulled up another display. We're calling it Project Swarm. Instead of trying to build one perfect ship in 6 months, we build hundreds of smaller ones. Each contributing nation focuses on what they do best. American fusion drives, Chinese quantum computers, Russian life support systems, Indian solar sails. And how exactly would this work? General Hammond's tone remained skeptical, but his eyes showed interest. The same way we decoded the signal, through collaboration. Sarah's passion was evident in her voice. Each ship would be part of a network, sharing resources, distributing computational load. No single point of failure, no single nation in control. Humanity reaching for the stars together. This is unprecedented. The UN Secretary-General spoke for the first time. The political implications alone are less important than what happens if we don't try. Sarah interrupted. This signal wasn't meant for us. We weren't supposed to be advanced enough to detect it, let alone decode it. But we did, through cooperation and innovative thinking. Now we have a choice. We can either retreat behind our protocols and national interests, or we can show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. The room fell silent as her words sank in. Then, from the back of the chamber, a young aide hurried forward with a tablet, whispering urgently to the Secretary-General. His eyes widened as he read the screen. It seems, he said slowly, that the decision may no longer be entirely ours to make. Dr. Chen's network has just released complete plans for their proposed ships online. They're calling it the Open Source Space Program. General Hammond stood abruptly. That's classified information. No, Sarah corrected with a small smile. It's crowdsourced innovation. Thousands of engineers and designers worldwide, working together in their spare time. The plans were never classified because they were never official. They're the product of human creativity and collaboration. Do you understand what you've done? The French representative demanded. You've started a space race. No, Dr. Patel interjected, standing beside Sarah. We've ended one. For the first time in history, we're not racing against each other. We're racing together, against time itself. As if to emphasize his point, Sarah's tablet chimed with notifications. The first prototype engines are already being tested in garages and workshops across the globe. Universities are redirecting their quantum computing resources. Space agencies are receiving thousands of volunteers. She looked around the chamber, meeting each representative's eyes in turn. The question isn't whether this is going to happen. It's whether you want to be part of making it happen right. The Secretary-General studied the growing data streams on his tablet. Reports of spontaneous collaboration between nations traditionally at odds, of resources being pooled, of barriers breaking down in the face of this unprecedented challenge. Perhaps, he said finally, it's time for protocols to adapt to reality, rather than the other way around. He straightened in his chair. Dr. Chen, Dr. Patel, you have 3 hours to present a formal framework for this Project Swarm, one that maintains necessary safety measures while embracing this new model of collaboration. As the chamber erupted in a mix of protests and supportive comments, Sarah shared a quiet smile with Dr. Patel. The signal might not have been meant for humans, but humanity's response was proving to be uniquely, beautifully human. In workshops, laboratories, and makeshift testing facilities across the globe, the greatest cooperative endeavor in human history was already taking shape. The race to answer an ancient call had begun, and humanity was answering it in their own inimitable way, together, messy, brilliant, and unstoppable. 2 months into their journey, Project Swarm encountered its first major crisis. The quantum fluctuations that had seemed like background noise suddenly intensified, threatening to tear apart the delicate network linking the fleet. All ships, status report. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the interference aboard the Endeavour. The responses came in a cascade of varying urgency. Curiosity hanging in there, but our quantum links are degrading. Unity reporting major power fluctuations. Innovation here. Where? Trying something. Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her data analysis station, where she'd been working alongside their alien observers. What exactly are you trying? Remember those Python scripts everyone said wouldn't work? The young engineer's voice carried a mix of excitement and nervousness. We're rewriting them. Live. While running. The quantum interference has a pattern, and we're adapting our code to match it. High Commander Zixtal's iridescent form shimmered with alarm. That is extremely dangerous. The computational risks alone are less dangerous than doing nothing, Sarah interrupted. She studied the data streaming from innovation. They're right. There is a pattern. It's similar to the beacon's encryption, but more complex. Almost like it's alive, completed Dr. Petal from his station aboard Unity. The quantum field isn't just noise. It's trying to communicate. The Crystalline Council observer, who had introduced themselves as NX427, pulsed with agitation. Impossible. Quantum fields cannot be sentient. Maybe not by themselves, Sarah mused, but what if they're being used by something that is? Her fingers flew across her console. Innovations onto something. The interference patterns, they're not random. They're reactive. Every time we adjust our systems, they shift to match. All ships, Captain Rodriguez commanded, coordinate with innovation. Feed their adaptive algorithms your local quantum data. This is highly irregular, Zixtal protested. Council protocols for first contact with quantum-based lifeforms require. They were interrupted by a burst of static, followed by a series of mathematical patterns dancing across every screen in the fleet. The patterns were beautiful, complex, and unmistakably artificial. It's responding to us, Sarah breathed. Innovation. What did you do? We kind of turned our entire network into one big quantum computer, the engineer admitted. All our ships, all our systems, working in parallel to match the entity's communication patterns. It's like a massive distributed neural network, but with quantum properties. X427's crystalline structure flickered rapidly. You created a quantum-based artificial intelligence by accident, while troubleshooting communication problems. Not exactly, Sarah corrected, studying the evolving patterns. We created a translation matrix. The entity was already here. We just figured out how to talk to it. She paused, watching as new patterns emerged. And I think it's trying to warn us about something. The warning came too late. A massive surge of energy rippled through space, catching the outer edges of the fleet. Ships tumbled, their systems overloading. Multiple vessels reporting critical failures. Captain Rodriguez announced grimly. Whatever that was, it was just the beginning. Bigger wave coming in 3 minutes. The Council's database has no record of such phenomena, Zixtal stated, their usual composure slipping. We cannot advise. Then let us handle it, Sarah interrupted. Innovation. Can you modify your translation matrix to act as a shield? Already on it, came the reply. But we'll need more processing power than we have. You'll have it, Sarah assured them. She opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, we're about to try something unprecedented. We're going to link every system we have, not just our quantum computers, but everything. Every phone, every tablet, every piece of tech that can process data. We're going to create the biggest distributed computing network in human history. The power requirements alone make this impossible, X427 objected. Impossibility is humanity's specialty, Dr. Petal replied. He was already coordinating with other ships, redistributing power loads. The next 2 minutes were a blur of activity. Personal devices were patched into ship systems. Gaming consoles were repurposed into quantum processors. The fleet's formation shifted, with stronger ships positioning themselves to protect their more vulnerable companions. Wave approaching, Rodriguez announced. 50 seconds. Sarah watched as Innovation's hastily modified code spread through the fleet's networks. The quantum patterns from the entity grew more urgent, but also more coherent. They weren't just warnings now, but instructions. 30 seconds. Network integration at 95%. Someone reported. It's working, but barely holding together. 15 seconds. Sarah looked around at her fellow humans, at their alien observers, at the screen showing the fleet working as one. Whatever happens, she said, we did this together. The energy wave hit like a tsunami in space. Ships buckled under the strain but held. The improvised network flickered, stabilized, then began to glow with an inner light that shouldn't have been possible. For a moment, the entire fleet existed in a state of quantum uncertainty, neither here nor there, their jury-rigged systems somehow doing what advanced alien technology had deemed impossible. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the wave passed. The fleet emerged intact, their networks humming with new patterns, patterns that matched the ancient beacon they'd been following. Status report. Rodriguez called out, her voice steady despite everything. All ships accounted for, came the response. Minor damage, but the controller's voice filled with wonder. Dr. Chen, you need to see this. Sarah was already looking. The quantum patterns had resolved into clear coordinates, and they were close, very close. The wave, she realized, it wasn't an attack. It was a test, just like the beacon. And we just passed it. Zixtal and X-427 stared at the humans with what might have been respect. Your methods are unorthodox, Zixtal admitted, but effective. That's kind of our thing, Sarah smiled. She turned to Captain Rodriguez. The signal is stronger now. Whatever left that beacon, whatever's been waiting all these millennia to be found, we're almost there. The structure that emerged from the quantum fog defied conventional physics. It hung in space like a crystalline web, its surfaces reflecting light that shouldn't have existed in the void, its geometry shifting in ways that made human minds struggle to comprehend. That's it, Sarah whispered, standing on the Endeavor's observation deck. That's what's been calling us. The entire Project Swarm fleet had arranged itself in a loose sphere around the ancient construct. Their makeshift quantum network hummed with activity, trying to make sense of the readings that poured in from every sensor. Energy signatures are off the charts, Dr. Paddle reported from Unity. The structure appears to be powered by, well, by the quantum field itself. High Commander Zixtal's holographic form flickered with what might have been awe. In all our centuries of space exploration, we never found anything like this. We thought we understood quantum mechanics. But this? Sometimes, Sarah said quietly, not understanding is the first step to discovery. She turned to Captain Rodriguez. The signal's changed. It's not just a beacon anymore. It's an invitation. The crystalline surface of the structure had begun to pulse with patterns matching their fleet's quantum network. The improvised communication protocols they developed during the energy wave were being reflected back at them, but clearer, more refined. It's learning from us, innovation's young engineer observed, just like we learned from it. A new pattern emerged, more complex than anything they'd seen before. It took their entire distributed network several minutes to decode it. Sarah stared at the translation. It's asking us to prove ourselves worthy. Not through technology or power, but through, she smiled, through adaptation, through creativity, through working together. How do we do that? Rodriguez asked. We already have. Sarah gestured at their fleet. Look at us. Dozens of different ships, hundreds of different solutions to the same problems. We didn't try to build one perfect vessel. We built many imperfect ones that work together. We didn't follow established protocols. We created new ones when we needed them. We turned our limitations into advantages. As if in response to her words, the structure began to change. Its surfaces rippled, creating an opening that seemed to lead somewhere impossible. The Council archives speak of the predecessors, Zixtal said softly. An ancient race that mastered quantum mechanics at levels we still can't comprehend. They vanished 50,000 years ago, leaving only mysteries behind. Not mysteries, Sarah corrected. Tests. They weren't looking for the most advanced civilization to find them. They were looking for the most adaptable, the most creative, the ones who could see problems from new angles. They were looking for humans. Enx 427 realized, their crystalline form pulsing with understanding. The opening in the structure stabilized, revealing what looked like a vast chamber beyond. New patterns flowed from it. Instructions, invitations, promises of knowledge. "What do we do?" someone asked. Captain Rodriguez looked at Sarah. "Doctor, this is your discovery." Sarah shook her head. "No, this belongs to all of us. Every person who helped decode the signal, every engineer who contributed to our ships, every crew member who trusted in our crazy plans." She opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is humanity's moment, and we face it together." The decision was made not through formal protocols or chain of command, but through the same kind of spontaneous collaboration that had brought them this far. Ships moved in perfect coordination, their quantum network now singing in harmony with the ancient structure. As they crossed the threshold into something greater than themselves, Sarah felt a presence, vast, ancient, and surprisingly welcoming. The predecessors hadn't abandoned the galaxy, she realized. They'd been waiting for a species that could think beyond conventional limits, a species that could adapt, improvise, and work together in ways that defied traditional logic. They'd been waiting for humanity. The chamber beyond was filled with knowledge, not just scientific and technological, but philosophical and cultural. The predecessors had left their legacy not to the most powerful or advanced civilization, but to the one that could approach problems from infinite angles, that could see solutions where others saw only chaos. The signal wasn't meant for humans, Sarah said, watching as the ancient knowledge began flowing through their network. But we were meant to find it, not because we were ready, but because we'd never let being unready stop us from trying. Around them, the structure hummed with approval. Humanity had proven itself not through perfection, but through persistence. Not through power, but through creativity. Not through individual achievement, but through unprecedented collaboration. The journey that had begun with an unexpected signal had led them to something greater than first contact. It had led them to a truth about themselves, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their knowledge, but in their ability to face the impossible together, to find solutions in chaos, and to turn their very limitations into advantages. As the fleet settled into orbit around the structure, preparing to study its secrets, Sarah looked at the faces around her, human and alien alike, all united in wonder. The signal might not have been meant for humans, but they had answered it anyway. And in doing so, they had proven themselves worthy of a legacy greater than anyone could have imagined. The real journey, she knew, was just beginning.